Hello everybody, and welcome to round 2 of the Colorado Karting Tour Winter Series here at the great Okayama racetrack. We're here live on Apex Racing TV. I am Tyler Newitt. I will be joined in the commentary booth tonight, as always, by Alex Skinner. And we've got the great Marco Barbanera doing cameras as usual here for the Colorado Karting Tour. We got to see some great action at Lime Rock in the previous round, following up on a nice warm-up run at Laguna Seca. And I think these guys are starting to really get a feel for this series, and we're starting to see some front runners emerge, some championship battles begin to shape up, and hopefully we're going to get to see some real good racing today, Alex.
We are indeed, and hello everybody, it's great to be back here, of course, at Okayama, and of course, Tyler. Okayama, we've been hyping this circuit up since last round because again we know it is such an amazing circuit for racing. It's a great circuit to learn. It's great, it's one of the circuits used in the Rookie Mazda Cup. So it's a circuit that pretty much you have no excuse of not knowing at this point if you are racing on the system. And it's a track that lends itself to some really good overtaking spots, and it's a track that lends itself to some pretty good fighting going on. And of course, we've got a big grid here today, and this is what we wanted to see, and hopefully, Tyler, we don't have a repeat at Lime Rock.
Yeah, it's not to say the racing was bad at Lime Rock, and it was certainly exciting for the viewer at home, but perhaps a few too many crashes for the liking of the drivers in the series. But as you mentioned, Alex, Okayama, really fantastic track, kind of one of the unsung great Japanese circuits. You hear all the time about Suzuka and Fuji, of course, but Okayama often flies under the radar, but it is really an excellent track and a great choice, as you mentioned, by iRacing to be one of their sort of rookie tracks, the tracks that are free to everybody and used heavily for the rookie series for the up-and-comers. There's a lot of overtaking spots, as you mentioned, certainly Atwood Curve, which also leads on to the big long back straight into the hairpin, which is another great overtaking spot. And of course, if somebody tries to make a move on you in the hairpin, you can always fight back into Revolver, which is the left-hander right after it. So lots of great corners around this track, and those aren't really the only overtaking spots. There's quite a few where you can be late on the brakes and make a move on somebody. But like any good track, it also has those switchback moments where the driver who is on defense can fight back the position they're losing. So we're just about to get started with qualifying here. As you mentioned, Alex, a slightly bigger grid than we saw at Lime Rock, which is great to see. Always good to have more drivers turning out, and I think looking at the timing sheets, they've integrated themselves well into this series. We've kind of got the usual suspects running up towards the front of the field, your Kenny Schmidt, your Rob Hubrex, Cadence Presley, all quick in practice. I noticed Brian Bruzzi, one of the newcomers to this series in round 2, was pretty quick in practice as well. On here today as far as newcomers. Definitely some drivers as well who we saw have success at Lime Rock. Your double race winner, Rob Hubrex, of course, at one to watch coming into here today. Kenny Schmid, Jim McKendry, Cadence Presley all had podiums at Lime Rock, so they're looking to keep their championship hopes in strong contention here as well. And then, of course, there's anything can happen in front, as we saw happen at Lime Rock. So those drivers behind are definitely able to sneak in and grab a podium if somebody or several drivers at the front slip up.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, like, you know, you look at, you just look at, you know, them just over the course of the season that we've seen so far. Obviously, we have only had the one, official championship points race, but we have had, obviously, the preseason, again, second, I need to say the preseason at Lime Rock. God, this is what happens when your brain fries itself at what is like 2 in the morning. But of course, we look at how it is over the season, and of course, we got plenty of new drivers that we are, that we have to see. Example on the bottom of the screen, Aaron Botnick, is one of those new drivers as well, number 17. Gabriel De Lira is also one of the new drivers we have. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys can do. Again, as we've said in practice, Tyler, some of these seeming to be around the mid-pack, but a couple may surprise us.
Absolutely, yeah. It'll definitely be one to watch for. Just want to get a couple of messages from the Colorado Karting Tour out to you before we start seeing too many qualifying times roll in. The Colorado Karting Tour iRacing League Board would like to thank you for watching this broadcast. We are looking forward to a great season of racing. The series is currently free to race for Colorado Karting Tour members. In order to keep the race entry free while providing the fantastic hosted sessions, awards, and broadcasts, we are looking for sponsors. If you would like to sponsor the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing League, please reach out at coloradokartingtour.com/contact for full details. In addition, the Colorado Karting Tour is looking for race day track workers. Positions currently open are corner, timing and scoring, as well as flag workers. Workers will be paid for their time and travel to each event. Please contact Colorado Karting Tour for more details. Contact information, once again, is at coloradokartingtour.com/contact. We're starting to see the first qualifying times up on the board. Early leader is your double race winner at Lime Rock, Rob Hubrex. He has put in a 1:31.2. They're using the full track here at Okayama, so lap times are going to be around about a minute and a half. It's not a short track by any means. There is a shorter version that they are available to run, but personally I'm glad they use the full long track. I think there's quite a few nice corners that you miss by taking the kind of shortcut that cuts out the extended section. So good to see they're using the full track, but it will be a long lap here. As we mentioned, Rob Hubrex, a 1:31.2, Jim McKendry, Kenny Schmid, your top 3 at the moment. A familiar story for those of you who watched round 1.
You do say that you miss a lot with the shorter layout, and I do agree with you on that, especially the double hairpin section. It's such a beautiful little section with how it cambers, with how it, how it switches, how it actually forces you to learn the car's rotation, learn the way that the car reacts over crests and over camber change like that. Again, it's a very good track to learn. And again, just currently looking at the 10 car, which is Brian Bruzzi. He's going to come around the final corner. What lap time is he going to do? Looks to be a 33.1 on that time by. The gap at the moment in qualifying being half a second as Hubrex does a 31.1. Geez, that's actually, I wouldn't be surprised to see if we do actually manage to see a 130 here, Tyler.
For sure, these drivers are probably going to have the chance to get maybe another lap or two in, or are they time limited? I'm not sure if they're time limited or it's just solo. It must be solo laps because I'm not seeing the other cars on track. So everyone gets 2 laps to put in a qualifying time, I do believe, or else they're just spaced out really well on track, because I haven't seen any of the other cars on in front at the moment, and it looks like it, as most of the drivers have finished up after just running 2 laps. Cadence Presley, one of the last cars who could mount a challenge for Rob Hubrex, but just looking at his sector times, I don't think he's going to be there. And it looks like he might have actually backed. No, he's still going hard, but he's going to need... Oh, I'm sorry, this is Tyler Green we're watching, but Cadence Presley is showing us on track, although he has already done his 2 laps, so... this is Tyler Green, another one of the new drivers to the series as we jump to Cadence Presley. Green puts in a 132.8 to go 11th, one of our new drivers. Here is another one, Gabriel Delira. He is currently, he hasn't put a time in yet. So Gabriel just now rounding that sort of middle sector of the track, and we'll see what sort of lap time he puts up. He should, oh dear. Just as I say that, he's gone for a spin. So he's not going to be able to put a lap time on the board, and we'll start from last place. His pace in practice, though, was not too shabby, a 32.4. So definitely should be perhaps making his way through the field, and we'll have to keep an eye on him. So we'll give you the rundown once qualifying officially concludes, but I get the feeling time's going to have to run out because Delira didn't finish his laps. At the moment, it does look like Rob Hubrex will be your pole sitter by a fairly substantial margin over Jim McKendry. They were much closer in practice, and actually Kenny Schmid was the practice leader, so Rob Hubrex stepping up when it counts, I have to say. Which is exactly what we saw from him at Lime Rock, as he was your double race winner. As I've already mentioned a few times, he did have to fight for him a bit. Neither of those race wins came easy to him. He fought back from a sort of self-induced spin in race number 1 and had to battle pretty hard with, I believe it was Kenny Schmid in race 2 to get that win, but he'll be starting out front today, at least for race number 1. Qualifying order for, or excuse me, starting order for race number 2 will be set based on the results of race number 1. Race 1, as it has been, is 15 minutes. Race 2 is 30. So we've got our qualifying results on the board there for you. Rob Hubrex will be your pole sitter today for the heat race ahead of Jim McKendry. Kenny Schmid will line up 3rd, Cadence Presley in 4th, Brian Bruzzi in 5th, Nolan Payne will start 6th, Floyd Kerr in 7th, Max Opalski, that's another new name to the series, will start in 8th ahead of Jeremy Davis and Aaron Botnick, who we already mentioned is a new driver here today. Tyler Green, who we saw setting his lap time, will start 11th ahead of Daniel Lopez, who I believe picked up a podium in race number 1 last week. Michael Dezoy will start in 13th ahead of John Schneebel. Dustin Wayman, Roman Baikov, and Gabriel Delira round out our field today.
It's just the calm before the storm that I love about the series. You know, it's the wait that we have before we do head into the formation, well, I say the formation lap, the formation half, I should say, because of course here on the current version of iRacing at Okayama, we start on the back straightaway. So, well, we don't start on the back straightaway, sorry, we start the formation lap on the back straightaway.
which is for the best. I think
Yes,
a
I don't
full
want.
formation lap around here would take quite a while.
Could you imagine it at Le Mans?
Yeah, that would be crazy. You don't even start
15-minute
qualifying from the
formation
pits
lap.
at Le Mans. So yes, a Le Mans full formation lap would be, well, in real life even it is. Although at least in real life you have, the drivers can wave to the fans along the track. In iRacing, I suppose you could virtually wave to the fans, but I don't think it's quite the same. But we are rolling here. We will shortly be taking the green flag for race number 1. Everyone's sort of single file here. They'll get themselves sorted out. It seems like the outside line didn't get going. Cadence Presley is the car who has now caught up to second place starter Jim McKendry, but he had a slow go of it. Hopefully the field gets all formed up here before the start, so we don't get any penalties for anybody. But the pace car is in. Rob Hubrecht just now takes off and gets a nice gap ahead of Jim McKendry. Kenny Schmid tucks in right behind, so they're single file for the first 4. Hubrecht from McKendry, from Schmid, from Presley. Bruzzi is the first one looking to make a move as he ducks to the inside of Cadence Presley in turn number 1. Cadence will have the preferred line for the next corner, though, and he's managed to hold it alongside Bruzzi. So good defending there from Cadence Presley to keep that 4th position over Brian Bruzzi, but Bruzzi clearly wanting to move forward early here in this race. It was a strong move into turn 1, just wasn't quite able to make it stick through the left-hander of turn 2 as they head onto the back straight for the first time. It's a pretty big gap from Rob Hubrecht back to Jim McKendry, and McKendry's going to come under fire here from Kenny Schmid right away. Kenny, quickest in practice, but qualified a bit further back, ducks to the inside into the hairpin, and he is likely going to take that position. He has already from Jim McKendry, as that's Nolan Payne running wide through the hairpin. Looks like he has lost a spot to Floyd Kerr. More battling on back between Davis and Botnick, or Davis, Botnick, and Green all in there for 9th place. Oh no! That was strange. That was Bruzzi getting turned by Payne or Kerr. It was one of the cars running sort of the back of the top 5, I think. It was Nolan Payne. We're going to get the replay here. Have to see what happened, but...
Ooh, it just seemed like he misjudged it, or didn't expect for Bruzzi to break that early.
Yeah, Bruzzi was kind of taking a somewhat defensive line into that corner, and Payne didn't really commit to going to the inside. He just kind of stayed in behind him, but then because he had compromised his entry line, it looked as though Bruzzi had to get on the brakes just a little bit early, and unfortunately Payne was just not anticipating it and ran into the back of him. That was a bit of a strange incident, to be honest, but now Bruzzi has reset to the pit lane. He will take his fast repair. He'll want to keep going because any positions he can make up from other incidents out on track will further his starting position for race number 2, but he'll have to wait for the tow and for the fast repair. Meanwhile, back at the front, Rob Hubrecht sits just under a second ahead of Kenny Schmid, who has started to chase in after him. The two of them have left Jim McKendry just a little bit. Jim doesn't quite seem to have the pace of those two early on here at Okayama. He's hanging about a second and a half behind the race leader, with Cadence Presley about half a second behind him.
You've got to look at it this way, though. Jim doesn't really need to push this moment. He knows that those two in front have come together or have fought extremely hard. We saw it at Lime Rock, and we know that it is a very big possibility that those three could have some very, very big fights that could end up ending in tears. So I think McKendry's probably just going, save it for a bit, keep in the tow, keep some life in this car, and then maybe we can push a bit later on, because you can see at 31.3, yeah, 3/10 slower than the two in front, and Cadence again 2/10 slower than him. But you look at this and you go, I don't think he's using the full speed that he has in that car at the moment. I think he's probably just hanging back.
It's certainly possible. We did see Jim just a little bit behind those top two in practice, so whether this is his pace or whether he's just taking it easy, we'll certainly find out as the race goes on, as Cadence Presley is not taking it easy. He sails it in there, just runs a little bit wide, but keeps the car under him. No issues there for Cadence, but it did cost him just a little bit onto the back straight and into the hairpin. He's got Floyd Kerr hard charging in behind him. But Hubrex has opened it up just a bit on Kenny Schmid. It's really, really tight between the first couple of sectors, but Schmid just losing a little bit. And similarly, it seemed... Oh, no, that's Jim McHenry spinning.
Oh.
And that's front wing gone for Jim McHenry. That's going to be... He is towed back to the pit lane rather than drive it back. So Jim is going to have to fight his way back through the field.
Looked like he just lost it under throttle application. It's on the curb, car's fine. Gets it out nice and wide, about the normal line. On the curb, the rear is gone on throttle application, and it's just a little nudge into the barrier. His even nose actually dislodged slightly as well, so...
Yeah, like a lot of the Japanese tracks on iRacing, Okayama is pretty pretty slippery. So definitely not too strange to see a driver spin it, just losing it on throttle. Certainly through those corners, you're very trying to get on throttle as soon as you can to get a run down into some of the passing zones there. And Jim just a little too early and lost the rear end. But same deal with Brian Bruzzi. He'll want to get back on track and try and make up some positions for the starting position for race number 2. Talking about making positions up, I mentioned he'd be one to watch in the qualifying session, but Gabriel Delira is up 7 spots into 10th place already. He started at the back of the grid after not setting a qualifying time, but he has charged his way through the field early on here, the newcomer to the series in that number 93 car. His next target is Aaron Botnick, another new driver to the series, but he's got about 3 seconds to make up on Aaron before any more positions to be gained there.
Yeah, it's a great start by him as well. We're currently looking at the fight for 5th between Payne, Opolsky, Green and Davis. Good to see Jeremy running inside the top 10. Didn't see too much of him at Lime Rock Park, but seeing him getting stuck into the thick of it here today at Okayama. And these guys actually aren't that far off the back of Kerr either. They're only about, what, 2.5? No, sorry. Yeah, it's about 2.5 seconds off the back of the guys in front. You can see them in the same camera shot even. So that is the top 10, pretty much almost in one camera shot, Tyler, if you were to look from the very, from turn 1 back to the final corner. And that just shows how close this race actually is in regards to the pace differential.
Yeah, it's great to see with even with adding drivers that they're all pretty competitive, and of course the quick guys are pulling a bit of a gap, but there's quite a bit of fighting going on here. And as you mentioned, Jeremy Davis, good to see him running well. I know Jeremy puts in a lot of effort to help with organizing these leagues along with the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing board. But good to see Jeremy running well. He's I think a big factor in having these races put on and broadcast here with Apex Racing TV. So good to see as Caden's kicking the back end out as he exits the hairpin into Revolver. I know what the corner is called. It just left my brain for a moment. But kicking the back end out, but gets a good run in through Revolver. But it certainly seems as if Floyd Kerr has the upper hand just at the moment in terms of pace. He's hanging right with Cadence. He hasn't been able to make a move happen yet. It seems like everyone's slipping and sliding a little bit out there, but we'll have to see if Floyd can get the move done on Cadence, as these two have been dropped by Rob Hubrex and Kenny Schmid.
Yeah, and Cadence is one of these guys that we've seen sort of develop over the races that we've had here on the Colorado Karting Tour. Same with, same with Green, same with, Davis, stuff like that. Oh, sorry, not Green. Sorry, apologies. Same with Davis and same with Wayman. They've gotten quicker. They've gotten more confident in these cars. As the seasons progress. For these first few of the few races that we've had. So it's great to see these guys all, being up so confident, able to get the pace up, and able to push these cars a bit more, which is why we're seeing the mistakes come out now. Of course, as we are currently on board with Green, as we head through the hairpin.
Kerr has gotten by Cadence Presley. I saw it happen on the timing tower. I think the move must have happened kind of out of the Moss S. We'll see what happens here as Cadence has a pretty big gap as they head into Atwood. Does he just run wide again? We saw it happen earlier. Yep, late on the brakes, runs just a little bit wide, and this time gets off into the gravel. So Floyd Kerr says thank you very much and sails on into 3rd place and into a podium position. It's interesting because we talk about Rob Hubrex and Kenny Schmid and Jim McHenry and how they've had a little bit of a pace advantage, but we've had, including Laguna Seca as well, we've had a number of drivers score podiums. We saw Cadence score a podium in a race at Lime Rock. We saw, I believe it was Daniel Lopez score a podium as well. Now Floyd Kerr is looking to add his name to the list of drivers who have scored a podium. And just to add to your point, Alex, a lot of the differentiating factor amongst these drivers is their experience within iRacing and within this car in iRacing as well. You know, a lot of these guys will have spent a lot of time on iRacing, and a lot of them will have spent no time at all on iRacing. It's just a matter of, you know, these are all guys who love racing in real life and have that passion and have carried that passion over into the simulator, but some have been doing it for longer than others. So a lot of what you see is not necessarily, and I said this in the last race as well, it's not necessarily indicative of their talent as a race car driver, just a simple matter of how much time they've put into iRacing. Of course, you know, there will be some drivers who are a little bit better here or there, but for the most part, a lot of what differentiates these guys is just a matter of time. As I saw a position change, and back again, this is Green and Opalski, two more new drivers to the series going at it for 6th place. Both of them running pretty well for their first go in the Colorado Karting Tour Winter Series here. And they're fighting back and forth. And I think that's job done at the moment for Green, but he doesn't close the door on Opalski. Opalski is going to have the inside line for the next series of corners, and he should have the advantage here over Tyler Green. Gives him plenty of space, but the job is done, and he'll have the run down the front stretch. Ride on board now with Jeremy Davis, who has closed right up on the back of these two. Mentioned, nice to see Davis running well, and he, I think, can sniff at least a top 6, if not a top 5, if he can get a hustle on here. But I think he's going to need some more battling in front of him to really get in that slipstream and make a move happen. But certainly not out of the question, and he's right in it with these two, and they're not too far off Nolan Payne for a top 5 position.
Meanwhile, as I said earlier, Prezi managed to get past Kurt. Kurt was very slow coming off a revolver, and lap ago, Prezi managed to make his way through. Saw that whilst we were looking at the fight that is going on at the moment between Opalski, Green, and Davis. Opalski very, very defensive into there. Gets the car in, but runs out wide. The Riz going to snap away from him as he comes through revolver. Green's going to try and get the run out of that and make sure he can get towards the inside potentially. As we look now at Kenny Schmid and back down to the fight for 6th position. Davis is sort of just sniffing around. He's trying to get himself there, but not really able to get anything done.
Got a replay of Kenny Schmid perhaps having an incident. He is quite a ways now off Rob Hubrecht, so something must have happened here for Kenny Schmid. Just a little spin. Everybody here is slipping and sliding. We saw Opalski go wide between Revolver and the corner after it, which is another name I can't. Piper, excuse me. Between Revolver and Piper, and he did really well to hang on to the car. It could have very easily ended up like we saw with Jim McKendry, where he spins into the barrier. So well held by Opalski, and he managed to keep 6th place in the process. And these 3 have not really been dropped by Payne in 5th. So 5th place, I would say, is still on. And of course, we've seen mistakes from Cadence Presley and Floyd Kerr in their battle for 3rd. So if anything further happens to those two, these guys will be sniffing a podium.
Just keeping an eye on lap time, just keeping an eye on other things. Yeah, hence why I'm a bit more quieter today. I'm sort of doing a bit more of a data and statistician role around here, because Tyler seems to be able to pick up absolutely everything today, which is always a good sign, because it means that one of us is awake.
I think the timing does help. I happen to be in the correct time zone for this race, whereas my other friends working the broadcast here do not. So I'm impressed that you're managing to keep an eye on lap times efficiently with the hour that you are operating at. As we jump forward to Cadence Presley, who's opened up a bit of a gap now over Floyd Kerr. I don't know if you mentioned that Kerr was slow of revolver. I don't know if he's got some damage that he is nursing or if he is just lost a bit of time to Cadence, got the tires hot. We see he lost 3 of those seconds on lap 7. That'll be when the position had changed hands. Since then, though, still half a second a lap is not small, and he is being dropped by Cadence Presley. We've just got the white flag we're on the white flag lap for Rob Hubrechts, who, after Kenny Schmid's spin, is sailing away to his 3rd win in a row and 3 for 3 on the series here. So he will be sitting pretty in the championship, but he will work his way around the last 3 corners and, barring significant issue, make his way across the line for the win. The closest battle on track remains the Opalski Green battle for 6th place. We'll keep an eye on that while we watch Rob Hubrechts make his way across the line for the heat race win here tonight at Okayama, setting himself up for a great start for race number 2 here. As we jump back to the battle for 6th, it looks as though it's going to shake out pretty much as it was. Opalski ahead of Green, ahead of Davis. Everybody in there together.
Oh, meanwhile, Bykov versus Wayman. This is a fight for 12th on the final lap. Bykov getting a bit loose as he came out of Revolver. I think he got a wheel on the dirt, but not too shabby there from these two guys. Again, still actually finishing the top 15 as well. Everyone actually going to make it to the end of the race as well, which is the first time we've actually had everyone make it to the end of a race here in the Colorado Karting Tour. So
not just to the end of the race, but everyone on the lead lap as well. Both Jim McKendry and Brian Bruzzi recovered after their tow and damage repair to be on the lead lap. So they weren't able to make any more spots up. So definitely going to want to keep our eye on those two towards for the start of the next race, as they'll be wanting to work their way through as quickly as possible. But we're just waiting now on those two to cross the line. We will have the final results for you, but a somewhat commanding victory for Rob Hubrechts, which is becoming a bit of a theme, I have to say, from what we've seen here in the first couple of rounds of the Colorado Karting Tour Winter Series. We'll get those results up for you as soon as we can, as the drivers head into warm-up. There they are. Rob Hubrechts is your race number 1 winner by 8 seconds after a spin for Kenny Schmid, who comes home in 2nd place. Cadence Presley rounds out your podium today, his 2nd podium of the series. Floyd Kerr comes home in 4th, a solid performance, but wasn't able to grab that podium from Cadence Presley when all was said and done. Nolan Payne rounds out your top 5 ahead of the battling trio we saw of Max Opalski, Tyler Green, and Jeremy Davis. Behind them, a couple of newcomers rounding out the top 10, Aaron Bodnick and Gabriel DeLira. Daniel Lopez came home in 11th ahead of Roman Bykov and Dustin Wayman, who we saw trading places on the final lap. Michael Dezoy came home in 14th ahead of John Schneebel. Jim McKendry and Brian Bruzzi both had some incidents on track which set them back, but they finish on the lead lap in 16th and 17th. Just having a look, it doesn't look like anyone wants to talk to us between races, which is fine. We'll let them get their practice in for race number 2. It's a 5-minute warm-up for the 2nd race, and then we will see them lined up in the order that they finished. So it'll be Rob Hubrechts leading the field to the green once again. But as I mentioned, the guys to watch are going to be Jim McKendry and Brian Bruzzi. We'll have to keep an eye on them, see how many spots they can make up into turn 1, and then how they work their way forward. We know both of them have, top 5 or so pace. And they've got 30 minutes to get themselves up into that position. but they've also got to keep it clean, which you have to say they weren't able to do in race number 1. So they'll have to be a little bit more careful come race number 2.
And that'll be the interesting one, especially with the extended race distance. Of course, we've seen before how things can change within 5 seconds, let alone 5 minutes. So, give them an extra 6 times that, and we'll be very interested to see what can change in that time period. Wait, no, sister. No, look. Tyler, remind me to never do maths on a broadcast with you, because I always seem to screw it up.
Absolutely, Alex.
But if I ever say that I'm going to try and do some maths right, if it look like I'm trying to, just tell me no. just stop me in my tracks.
Oh dear. As we see Nolan Payne, and I believe that's Max Opolsky having some fun in the warm-up session here. Just reiterate a couple of messages from our friends at Colorado Karting Tour. The League Board would like to thank you for watching this broadcast. Looking forward to a great season of racing. This series is currently free to race for the Colorado Karting Tour members. In order to keep the race entry free while providing the fantastic hosted sessions, awards, and broadcasts, we are looking for sponsors. If you would like to sponsor CKT iRacing League, please reach out at coloradokartingtour.com/contact for full details. In addition, the Colorado Karting Tour is looking for race day track workers. Positions currently open are corner, timing and scoring, as well as flag workers. Workers will be paid for their time and travel to each event. Please contact Colorado Karting Tour for more details. Contact information is once again at coloradokartingtour.com/contact. It's a pretty hot track, which I think is part of what contributed to the slipping and sliding that we saw in race number 1. I'm showing 131 degrees Fahrenheit. My goodness. That is definitely not going to help these drivers make their way around this track.
I was slightly confused reading this. I thought, is the HUD having an aneurysm, or is it actually legitimately 131 degrees Fahrenheit? Because
yes,
we know that iRacing likes to have hotter track temperatures, but I think this is a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know what the sim date is May 29th, which makes it a little bit more reasonable, and the air temp is supposed to be 82 degrees, so it's not totally unbelievable that with the sun beating on it and cars running over it for a while, it gets up that hot, but that is pretty much as high as I've seen it on iRacing.
That's what's making me a bit concerned here. Because does Jeremy have just a death wish for everyone, or?
Yeah.
I'm just starting to blame Jeremy for everything that goes wrong. Not in a bad way, it's always Jeremy's fault. If there's anything server or admin related, it's Jeremy's fault.
Yeah, I think. In fairness, we saw a incredibly clean race despite the slipping and sliding and high temperatures. There was really only that one contact, the kind of strange incident between Nolan Payne and Brian Bruzzi. But we are gridding up for race number 2. I'll run through your starting order again. It is your finishing order from race number 1. Rob Hubrex on pole alongside Kenny Schmid. They line up ahead of Cadence Presley, Floyd Kerr, Nolan Payne, Max Opolsky, Tyler Green, Jeremy Davis, Aaron Botnick, Gabriel Delira, your top 10. Behind them, Daniel Lopez, Roman Baikov in 12th. Dustin Wayman, Michael Dezoy, John Schneebel, Jim McKendry, and Brian Bruzzi round out your field as we get a nice blimp shot of these racers on their way to take the green flag. It is nice to see a bigger field than we had at Lime Rock, and they certainly fill out this bigger track, as Rob Hubrex is already away from Kenny Schmid, who ducks in front of Cadence Presley, but Cadence got a good start. He might have a look here on Kenny into turn number 1. Kenny goes a bit defensive. Oh no! Oh, Cadence and Kenny came together there. Kenny, it seemed like he couldn't really decide which way he was going to go, and Cadence couldn't decide which way he was going to go behind them, but Kenny is unfortunately out of this one early on.
Yeah, it seems to be just miscommunication between the pair of them. I think, I don't think Kenny really noticed that, that Cadence was directly there, and Cadence, I think was a bit, wasn't really reading it right, and then, moved as well. It was a bit of an interesting first corner. There was a lot of, weaving, a lot of blocking going on, which is sort of what I was kind of waiting for that inevitable to really happen. Seeing, seeing what was going on.
Also, as though Brian Brucey has reset back to pit lane, so he has had a rough night so far tonight. Unfortunately, he is back in the pits as well, along with Kenny Schmid. Yeah, it really just looked like a couple of drivers being just a bit too indecisive as they headed into turn one. I'd have to see another view if I was going to try and apportion blame to that, but it seemed to kind of be a turn one, lap one racing deal. Oh no!
Oh no!
Cadence Presley and Jim McKendry. So Jim McKendry with a night to forget as well. Oh dear, what happened there?
I'm very curious to what happened there, because it was a very light-hearted "What are you doing there?" response from Jim McKendry, and that's something you can tell that he's laughing. Here we go. We're gonna have a look at the race start, though, of course.
I think.
Well, we will have a look at the race start. Here we go.
So here's turn number one as things have settled down a bit on track.
Presley's in the 1 cut, and then you've got Kenny Schmid in the 14. I don't know. The camera switched at the worst time. Marco, come on.
It just looked to me like Kenny was fading a bit back to the left and Cadence was fading a bit back to the right. I think we'll see it on board here that it was just two drivers.
Moved to the right. Oh no, actually that's on Cadence. Because I thought Kenny had moved over, which again, that's not me thinking he moved over. It just seems that Cadence maybe moved over, was a bit indecisive where he wanted to place himself.
Yeah, and here's what happened.
Oh, these turns. Oh.
Just a little nudge between Cadence and Jim. Jim tried to cross him over, and Cadence didn't realize he was doing it, I don't think. That was a bit of a late move from Jim, but he...
damage as well on
he
Cadence's
did get
car.
turned in on.
Didn't expect the damage.
No, as we've seen, Wayman has also reset to the pit lane. So lots of happenings here in the early going of race number 2. Kenny Schmid and Jim McKendry have both gone back on track, as has Cadence Presley. So,
fight second though is Payne and Kurt slipstreaming each other. Kurt's going to look to the inside of turn 1, not going to be able to make a move, but these guys are starting to set each other up now. It seems they're sort of starting to get a bit impatient. Again, we've still got just over 20. We've still got 26 minutes to go, as that is Botnick around on the exit of T1. But back up to that fight for second, and Kurt is having a look. Is he going to throw it to the inside? He's not going to throw it to the inside, but he's going to show his nose. It's going to make Payne run slightly wide to the run. The run's not really going to go either way, because you can run a wider line here and keep the speed up and get yourself a decent enough run onto the back straight for you to not really lose any time if someone does try and run a tighter line, although to the inside of the hairpin potentially. I think Kurt is more showing his nose than he's trying to do anything, because he knows that door's going to get closed, slammed in his face. Opolski's not too far back in that 16 car, that McLaren livery car. Actually good to see that livery as well. Very beautiful little livery. And not too far back from them is Green and Davis. So, and I mean, for Rob at the front, he must have looked in his mirrors and gone, "What the hell's going on?" Must have been extremely confused out of T1 when he sees literally no one behind him.
Yeah, he's kind of cruising here. What we saw between Curran and Payne is why I love Atwood. It's such a great corner, because the camera does come to you on the outside line on the exit, and you can hold that outside line and get a good run off, and it makes for some absolutely awesome battling onto the back straight and into the hairpin, and we saw it on full display here between Nolan Payne and Floyd Kerr as they start another lap in the same order that they finished the previous. Same order that they started the previous. Of course, they're starting the lap in the same order that they finished the previous. That would be quite bizarre if they managed to not do that. But They head back through Atwood once again. With Nolan Payne still out front, Floyd Kerr will look to get a tow here. But it does look like we're going to get to see some names that maybe we wouldn't have otherwise in contention for a podium here, as people making mistakes, coming together, slipping and sliding around on this track. I think we will see some different names up on the podium. Maybe it's Nolan Payne, maybe it's Floyd Kerr, maybe it's Max Sapolsky. Tyler Green's not out of this either. Jeremy Davis is not out of this. I mean, all of these drivers from second on and back are covered by, you know, a couple of seconds, as Kerr is having another look on Nolan Payne.
Actually turned out as well. He actually thought that he was going to commit to that, so he turned out, which actually allowed Kerr to get alongside. So actually a very good little bit of a mind game there from Kerr in the 68 car, because what it did was it actually ruined the run out of the corner that Payne had, but it has also allowed Opolski right onto the back of the pair. And while Green's going to be looking at this going, oh, can you three please tangle? Or hoping that, you know, Rex has a moment like he did at Lime Rock last time out. But with the pace that he's running, a second faster at the moment than anyone else, I don't think that's going to be too big a problem.
It certainly does help Rob Hubrex that these guys are all fighting with each other. I don't think he truly has a second in hand over all these guys, but we know he does have the pace. You know, he qualified on pole, he led race one, start to finish. So certainly Rob is on it hard and pushing as hard as he can here, despite the ever-growing gap, as we see Opolski making a move on Kerr. And he's going to have the inside line into the hairpin. We'll see if he can get the job done before they head into Revolver. Kerr locks up just a little bit of that inside right front. He'll have the line, although he doesn't really have the overlap. He throws it in there and gets the side-by-side and forces Opolski wide into the gravel. Opolski chops the nose off Tyler Green.
That was very dangerous for Opolski.
It certainly was. He was very fortunate that Tyler Green saw what was happening and let him through there. We saw a change of position there between Daniel Lopez and John Schneebel for 10th place, as we get a replay of the happenings in the battle for third. So we see the onboard from Tyler Green, and you'll see Opolski get forced wide here. I think Kerr was entitled to that corner, even though it's a bit difficult to go too wide in there. And yeah, that was risky from Opolski for sure.
Meanwhile, the gap has only gotten bigger at the front. It's been at least half a second a lap faster. And we've still got 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, I don't know what Rob Hubrex is going to do for fun for the next 20 minutes, because at some point just lapping by yourself gets to be a little tiring. I'm sure, you know, any driver would want to have something to battle against, whether it's setting quick laps or battling against another driver, trying to compare yourself against somebody. But for Rob Hubrex, he is just smooth sailing, cruising away here to what looks to be, or I don't want to speak too soon and give him the commentator's curse, but
don't do what we did at Lime Rock.
He's headed towards a 4-for-4 sweep. I mean, of course, maybe I should give him the commentator's curse, and he'll have to work for it. But
look, we already got his name wrong enough at Laguna Seca. We then cursed him at Lime Rock. I don't think he'll be happy if we do something else to screw him over this time.
Perhaps. You see Roman Bykov, who is kind of at the tail end of this group, but this is really pretty much everybody from second on back in one long train, or second to eighth, as it were, in one long train. Behind them is a pretty substantial gap to Botnick, Lopez, Schneebel, DeZoys, and then you get the cars who had their issues in the opening laps of this race. Speaking of which, Cadence Presley has had another incident. It looks like
big jump by the looks of things.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here.
One. Car goes out wide. Perfectly fine there through two.
And just a slide and an overcorrection. Yeah, that's tough. That is.
I wouldn't even say that's an overcorrection. It just looks like the way that the car gripped up on him.
Yeah, it's tough. Certainly it has to do with, as we see...
what's Lord McKendry done? Oh, wait, no.
Oh, no, we're just watching Cadence.
We're trying to find the onboard with Cadence, I have a feeling.
Yep. Yeah, I think it... that's just a matter of the track temp. We showed it earlier at the race. It is incredibly hot, and these drivers have to be struggling with their tires for sure. Here's Cadence's on board. We'll see.
Yeah, he's not even really
just a little too much wheel back into it, and it snapped on him, unfortunately. So a shame for Cadence. He'd already had a rough race, but he did get that podium in race number 1, which he can hang his helmet
valuable
on, I
points.
suppose.
Points mean prizes. To the inside goes Kerr, though.
True, I'm not certain they score points for race number 1. I had to think on that after I mentioned it for Rob, but we'll see if we can get Jeremy to fill us in on what the point situation is here. I don't have the table in front of me, but we see the battle continuing for second. It's really on between Payne and Floyd Kerr here, and Opalski has recovered from running wide to be back in it as well. Tyler Green set his fastest lap of the race that time through and was quicker than everybody in front of him besides Rob Hugrex, as Floyd Kerr just disappeared for a moment there and runs wide at the exit of turn number 2, which will just set him back a little bit from Nolan Payne. Probably won't allow him a run out of Atwood. Now he tries the wide line as Payne keeps it in tight. Did he keep up enough speed to have a run at Nolan Payne? I don't think he did. He's a long ways back to get enough of a toe to make a move to the inside, so it'll have to wait at least another series of corners for Floyd Kerr, barring issue from Nolan Payne. Behind them, it is Opalski and Green, all really in one line, with Davis right there in it as well, and Delira and Bykov waiting to pick up the pieces of whatever happens with this group in front of them.
Oh, and out of the pits goes Cadence Presley.
Yeah, I've noticed Dustin Wayman was the only one of our drivers who had wrecked who didn't continue, so Cadence must have reset. I don't know.
What he's probably done is he probably escaped out, went to the monitor to look at the replay, and then has obviously come back in. And the HUD has obviously shown him as out, which is what it does when you do a driver swap in iRacing.
Yes, or if you are being towed, I believe it also will show you as out. So he might have just been taking the tow. They only have one fast repair, so if... Oh, no! That's what happened to Dustin Wayman and why he is out of this race, unfortunately. I don't know who that was that hit him, but whoever it was seems to have continued on, because Wayman's the only driver out of this race. It was Dezoy. So Dezoy running around without a front wing at the moment. He has a fast repair, so he could certainly come in and get it fixed, but I guess he's hoping he can hold on to that 12th position ahead of the recovering Kenny Schmid, Jim McKendry, and Brian Bruzzi. Battle still raging on here for second place. It's funny how much can happen in a battle without anything actually changing. You see these drivers, kind of the gaps ebb and flow. Sometimes they'll have a run or they'll make a little mistake, but the positions have been the same, but it's still been incredibly exciting to watch.
Indeed it has. And again, just everybody seems to have settled into a pace. No one really able to get, majorly close to each other now, which is, I think, more a case of everyone just finally relaxing and going, wait, we're not even halfway through yet, what are we doing? So, expect it to sort of die down for a little bit now. Everyone sort of settles themselves out, tries to close back in on everyone that's around them. Then, probably within the final 5 to 10 minutes, that's when we're going to start seeing the chaos happen again. Not well, and when I say chaos, I mean the good chaos. The good kind of chaos.
Yeah, the other factor, of course, to consider is some drivers may be using their tires a little bit more than others. It's just a matter of driving style, since this is a fixed setup race. But drivers who, as we just saw one of them running wide there, I believe it was Green, dipping a toe into the gravel, that'll wear your tires. As will running over curbing. It won't do much, but over the course of a 30-minute race, it'll do something. And especially with the track as hot as it is, you'll want to have as good of tires under you as you can. So the drivers who are pushing just a little bit hard, we saw Opalski run wide, we've seen Payne lock up, we've seen Kerr lock up. So the more you can keep your tires under you, like Jeremy Davis, I haven't seen anything from him to indicate that he's been abusing his tires, so he might have some forward momentum towards the end of this race just by virtue of having not been in battles early on and keeping the tires safe.
Yeah, indeed. And I think I was looking at this earlier, just looking at how people were sort of driving, how people like the lap time, stuff like that. And again, everyone, it doesn't seem to be that highway's going to be too big an issue around here again. Yes, it's quite a high degradation circuit, but even especially with the temperatures that we are witnessing at well over 130 degrees Fahrenheit. But of course, it's one of these circuits as well where you can kind of manage it not too difficultly as that is Kerr going very wide. Apolsky makes his way up to third place now. So 16 up to third. We're looking on board with green now as he's right on the back of that 68 car. Going to try and get the slip, make his way through the S's, or through the S I should say, into the hairpins. Going to look to the outside, see if he can get a run onto the back straight, because if he can, he's going to have a beautiful, beautiful manoeuvre up the inside. But this does allow Kurt to get right back into that slipstream for the entirety of that straight, and there could be a good chance that he makes a dive for the inside. Shows his intent. Brakes slightly earlier, but there's a lot less pressure. We'll get that car down the inside. Green's going to try and hold it. Still side by side. Turns in the rear end on that 97 machine, just sliding out wide ever so slightly. But I think he's got the move down.
He sure has. Every once in a while, the drivers accidentally make it look like I know what I'm talking about. So I'd like to thank Floyd Kerr there for locking up, making some mistakes on his older tires to make it look like he's struggling with them, as I suggested some of these guys might be. But what this battling has done is allowed Nolan Payne to slip away. He's now got a little bit, still under a second ahead of Opolsky. No, I'm sorry, it is around about 2 seconds ahead of Opolsky. So Nolan Payne has stretched the gap and dropped Opolsky from tow range. So if he can keep on keeping on here, he might be able to secure that second place ahead of this battling pack behind him. So great running there by Nolan Payne, just taking advantage of the mistake from Floyd Kerr in the ensuing battling to stretch his gap as Gabriel Delira has had a spin, and he has beached himself on the curb there. That's unfortunate. Oh, come on. He's almost got it. He's so close.
Schneebel, is that you?
Yes, yeah, we saw that happen. Or was it Schmid, I think it was.
Oh, Schmid, yeah, sorry, Kenny Schmid.
Yeah, Schmid at Laguna Seca, who beached himself on the curb at the corkscrew. But that's unfortunate for Gabriel Delira. He was not just a little spin.
It's a very interesting place to spin it and get beached at that. And it's very weird the car would beach itself on that particular curb.
Well, we've seen a number of drivers struggling with their rear tires. We saw a similar thing happen to Cadence Presley. He just went the other way with it and tried to stick with it. As we see the battle once again on for fourth place as... Oh, sorry. This is for third because Delira towed back to the pits. He's currently showing in first. But this is the battle for third place between Tyler Green and Max Opolsky, with Floyd Kerr looming in behind. I'll want to see... Just take a look at the lap times as they come through. Is Payne stretching that gap at all? Yes, he is.
On the inside. Kurt trying to have a look. Not going to make it work there, but he's going to try and get on the outside, but a bit of a slide, so it's not going to really optimize the exit there.
But with these drivers battling, Nolan Payne has stretched that gap. He stretched it by almost half a second that lap. And he stretched it by further in through turn 1. So he's got almost a 3-second gap on these drivers now. And that's exactly what he wants to see, is these guys continuing to fight, continuing to slow each other down so he can scamper away up the track and secure that second spot on the podium behind Rob Hubrex. Another lock up there from Kerr. He really seems to be pushing hard into the hairpin. We've seen him lock that inside right front a few times. The track does fall away from you there, which is why you see these drivers as they unload that right front tire. It's compounded by the camber of the track as John Schneebel is off the track in turn number 1. So it's certainly easy to lock up a front right inside tire into the hairpin, but we've seen Floyd Kerr doing it a little bit more than some of the other drivers out there today. All that said, he is hard on the back of Tyler Green for 4th place. It does seem like he's got a little bit more pace than these guys in front of him, but having made that mistake into turn number 1, setting himself back it's difficult to make the ground up when these drivers, even if he does have a little bit more pace, I wouldn't say he's got enough to make anything happen here. Gabriel Delira back on track after his unfortunate incident in turn number 2. He is a lap down to the race leader, or getting conflicting reports, but he is unfortunately set back. Here are Brian Bruzzi and Jim McKendry, who have just had a terrible day, both of them. Qualified well and unfortunately caught up in incidents arguably not of their own. Well, Jim's was certainly of his own doing in race number 1, but oh, that's Kerr around again. So has Kerr been a bit too unkind to his tires, or was there contact there? We'll get a look here in a moment as they head through the hairpin. It was through Revolver we saw Kerr around. He was running with Jeremy Davis in behind him, just lost it on his own. So Kerr, using up those tires a bit too heavily, has lost another spot from a mistake on his own and promoted Jeremy Davis into the top 5. So Davis looking good here. I don't know if he'll have anything for Max Sapolsky and Tyler Green if they keep going as they are, but should they get to battling, I think Jeremy does have the pace of those two in front of him and a chance at the podium here. The driver who really has the pace though right now is Nolan Payne. He's now 4 seconds ahead of Max Sapolsky. Really, it seemed like the only driver from that group who could challenge him was Floyd Kerr before he had his issues with his tires and his lockups. So Nolan Payne now cruising into the second place, second podium position behind Rob Hubrecht. He's certainly not on Rob Hubrecht's pace. He's being dropped at around about a second or two, or second or half a second a lap or so. In fact, that's an incredibly consistent set of laps from Rob Hubrecht's, and the gap back to, or the delta back to Nolan Payne is incredibly similar. The battle on between Lopez and Botnick for 8th place. Lopez having a look to the inside into the hairpin. Looks like Botnick is going to cede that position as they head into the brake zone. Will he try the over-under? Oh, no! Oh, that's unfortunate. Lopez, I guess, slowed up a little bit more than Botnick expected. Botnick, who was trying to cross him up, just ran into the back of him there. That's a shame. Like those two are going to have a good battle forming up. We'll see from Botnick's perspective here. Oh, that's tough. Yeah,
That's on Botnick.
It certainly is on Botnick. Yeah, there was nothing Lopez did wrong there. It's just a tough position to be in because Lopez was trying to hold that inside line, and Botnick was trying to get the crossover and just misjudged it and made contact there with Lopez. Lopez has held on to 9th place. It didn't look like he had any notable damage from the contact. So we get a look at the big movers of the race. It's Roman Bykov and John Schneebel, your top goers, or your top comers of the race. Your top goers are Cadence Presley, unfortunately, who started up in 3rd place, finds himself in 16th, and he has parked it. He is out of the race after his spate of incidents.
We were going to try and do an onboard lap earlier, but there was so much fighting going on
Opolsky.
that poor Marco had to...
Sorry, Alex. Opolsky just got a little bit sideways, as it looks like this battle is not over. If we do want to jump to an onboard lap, I'd recommend Green as he pursues Opolsky here. I think these two are really pushing it.
There has been a bit of contact there. I'm not sure what's going on. Here we go. We're going to get a look of what happened now just on the replay.
I
I
think this is
did
a separate incident. This
see...
is Roman
Oh, this
Bykov
is a
going for a
separate... Yeah.
spin. I heard discussion between Michael Dezoy and Jim McKendry.
Jim McKendry, yeah. Here we go. So this is what happened here. Coming through penultimate corner.
So Dezoy
Yeah,
is the one who's
he's got no front wing, so...
Yeah, I'm not sure Jim McKendry realized he was driving without a
Yeah,
front wing.
I don't think he didn't have a wing, so I think he probably expected him to go through the corner at a relatively normal speed, and then suddenly, car has no front wing, it slows. Meanwhile, to the inside, no, not going to work, but Polsky is getting a bit feisty now with pain. Oh, sorry, with Green,
thanks to Tyler Green for that excellent onboard lap of the fantastic Okayama circuit, as he was hot in pursuit of Max Opolsky and continues in pursuit of Max Opolsky. The two of them have dropped Jeremy Davis just a little bit. It looks like it's going to be between these two for the final podium position, unless they come together. But yeah, just another in the series of unfortunate events for Jim McKendry today, as he finds himself once again with some damage to his car. I think he has lost his front wing. Certainly he's showing as a lap down now in 13th place. Kenny Schmid has recovered the best of the drivers who had incidents early on in this race to 10th place. But it doesn't look like, I don't think he's going to make up 30 seconds on Daniel Lopez in the remaining 2 minutes of this race, unfortunately. So I believe that that's where he's going to end up. Brian Bruzzi just moving into 11th there. He's another one of those drivers who had issues early on. That is Bruzzi going by Schneebel as we jump back forward to this battle, and it looks like Opolsky has got a decent gap suddenly over Tyler Green. I don't know if Green made a little mistake or Opolsky just put in some good sectors. But that has opened up. I don't believe we are on the last lap yet. I think that, yes, the 2 to go. Thank you, Marco. So this next time around, Rob Hubrecht will take the white flag. But Green is going to need to get a move on to catch back up to Opolsky if he's going to make anything happen in the lap and a bit they have remaining, as Rob Hubrecht slows up behind the damaged car of John Schneebel, but works his way by cleanly. Rob, with 15 seconds in hand, can afford to be a little bit patient with these lap cars for sure. Here is the battle for third. It is Opolsky ahead of Green still, as it has been. Just about a half a second between the two of them as they head down the start-finish straight. Green will get a little bit of a tow here, but he will also lose some downforce into turn 1 and through the other corners, which is why we haven't seen a pass happen despite the tow. Oh, that's Davis going for a slide, and he's going to lose 5th place to Floyd Kerr. He may lose 6th place as well, although Roman Bykov is pretty far back down the road.
Yeah, no, he's going to hold 6th. I think that was an interesting one from Davis.
It looked like he just lost the rear.
Makes his way into turn 1. And he locks the rear up, I think. I think he locks the rears, actually.
Yeah, perhaps a bit of diff locking, I'm not sure, but definitely something at the rear as we see the battle on for 3rd place on the final lap here. It is side by side as they head into the hairpin. Opolsky and Green. Green holding the outside line. Can he hold it into Revolver? He can. And Green is through for 3rd place. Can Opolsky do anything? He slips the tires just a little bit on throttle through Revolver. I don't think he's going to have an answer for Tyler Green here as they head through the last 4 corners on the track. We jump forward to Rob Hubrecht, who crosses the line 4 for 4 so far in the Colorado Karting Tour. But what is going on for 3rd place? Opolsky is right there. We'll see if he can get a run through the final corner as we go to the overhead view. These cars don't seem to get all that much of a tow, so we'll want to be right on the tail. I don't think it's going to be enough, although the finish line is quite a ways down. Some wiggling there from Green, but I think that was just waving to the crowd as he secures the final podium position ahead of Opolsky, Kerr, and Davis. Bykov comes home in 7th, and Daniel Lopez will round out the top 8. Kenny Schmid and Brian Bruzzi, a couple of our recovery drives, should round out the top 10, with Brian actually ending up being the biggest mover of the race, despite his early issues, because he started from the back. Here is Kenny Schmid, perhaps a race of what could have been for Kenny Schmid. He was starting in second, and certainly seemed to be the only guy who could challenge Rob Hubrechts on pace today. Here is Brian Bruzzi, and a bit of an unkind welcome to the series, but hopefully things will shape up a bit better for Brian next time out at Charlotte Motor Speedway, which I have to say I am really looking forward to, Alex. I love me some open wheel oval racing.
I was about to say, as the European as one of the Europeans in the broadcast, you know, this is a concept that we're not too familiar with.
Yes, certainly.
The race after, when we go to the Roval, then we have an idea. But apart from that, we're clueless.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of open wheel racing on ovals. I love me some IndyCar. But here we have the final results. Rob Hubrechts sweeps the weekend for the second weekend in a row here, with a dominating 16-second win over Nolan Payne. Tyler Green rounds out your podium with a last lap move on Max Opalski. Really impressive effort from newcomer Green on newcomer Opalski. Floyd Kerr comes home in 5th ahead of Jeremy Davis. Roman Baikov is 7th, Daniel Lopez in 8th. Kenny Schmid and Brian Bruzzi recovered to 9th and 10th respectively to round out our top 10. Aaron Botnick came home in 11th, John Schniebel in 12th. Jim McKendry came home 13th ahead of Gabriel Delira, who was looking pretty solid earlier before getting beached on the turn 2 curbing. Michael DeZoy came home in 15th after running most of the race without a front wing. Cadence Presley, after a number of incidents, unfortunately comes home in 16th, and Dustin Wayman, who was out very early on, comes home in 17th and last. We should have some interviews coming your way in just a minute. I will see who we have here. All right, let's say we grab our double race winner for the second race weekend in a row. Rob Hubrechts, how you doing?
Yeah, doing great. Yeah, second race in the row. Feels pretty good.
You certainly had to overcome a lot less this week, I would say, as compared to your races at Lime Rock Park. You were pretty much smooth sailing all the way through both races today.
Yeah, it's it wasn't as easy as you probably thought it was, just because with this car, man, the tire degradation of the rears was a real problem. It's the first track that we've been to, actually the first track that I've raced with this car in iRacing at all, between this and the official series, where the problem was not the front but the rears going away. So we all know that in iRacing with rear tires, if you start to get into a slide, it can kill you pretty quickly. So it was hard on that front, but especially in the final, yeah, it kind of became an easy Sunday drive where I just had to manage the tires and maintain the gap. So
yeah, we as you mentioned, we absolutely saw a number of drivers struggling with their rear tires, just spinning on their own. We saw Cadence do it. We saw Jeremy Davis do it. I think we saw Gabriel Delira do it. So certainly a number of drivers having issues, and the track was absolutely quite hot. It was how much of the tire management factor was just taking it easy. Obviously in race 1 you had Kenny pressuring you for most of the race, but I think the track seemed to be a little bit cooler because people had somewhat less issues.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, with the first race, it was more of a challenge because I did have Kenny behind me, but he couldn't quite seem to pull up on me there. I think if the roles were reversed, I think Kenny would have probably, if he had qualified on pole, he probably would have done the same thing to me, just because there's so many kind of mid-range, mid-speed kind of downforce dependent corners on this track that it's hard to get up on someone if you're matched on outright lap time, because he was actually quicker in practice than me. So I don't know where I pulled out my qualifying lap, but managed to get pole and then just kind of walked away with it, I guess.
Yeah, we noticed. Are you a fan of oval racing? I have to ask.
I am.
Good, because I, as the lead into my next question, are you looking forward to the race at Charlotte Motor Speedway?
Man, I don't even know. Like, I love oval racing. This car, I've raced on short ovals a few times in the official series. I think that I can't really let my guard down in terms of the championship, though, because I think that this next race at Charlotte is going to be a wild card, just with the way that this car races on that track. We tried it out a couple weeks ago. It's going to be a draft fest. No one's going to be able to walk away with it. It could go to literally anyone in the field. So, and then after that, we've got our endurance races, which I think Kenny is going to have a distinct advantage for because he does endurance racing in real life, and I have not really done any endurance racing here on iRacing or otherwise. So I can't really let my guard down. I'm definitely looking forward to the next race, but I think I'm certainly not expecting it to be easy in any way.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's hopefully we get to see some good action and not too much in the way of cautions, as can sometimes be the case at these ovals. I'm super excited for it, and you certainly have set yourself on a good track for the championship with your dominating performances this week, and you're 4 for 4 as far as wins go, Rob. So do you have anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go here?
Yeah, as usual, Point Karting, can't thank them enough. Also, thank you guys for putting together this broadcast. I rewatched the last couple ones. Super high quality broadcast. I'm glad that we can, especially in these times of having to social distance and doing our racing online like this, I'm glad that we have you guys here doing the broadcast for all our friends and family at home who want to watch. So thank you guys.
Well, thanks so much, Rob. We really appreciate it, and we're happy to do it. It's a great series, and we will see you next time out at Charlotte.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
All right, I think we can grab our race 2 runner-up, Nolan Payne. Alex, if you want to take this one.
Nolan, first off, congratulations. Secondly, beautiful car. And thirdly, how did you do it? Oh. I heard Discord disconnect sound.
Good.
You there, Nolan, my man?
So at the start, Floyd and I were having a good battle. I kept checking my mirrors just to see where he was every turn. And Max and I were talking to each other during the race, and we sort of had a little plan just to work together and drive smooth. And then eventually, once I had a nice little gap, I sort of just preserved my tires because I knew it was a long race. So, yep.
So, a comfortable podium for yourself then?
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking at the beginning, but eventually it was all good.
Of course, obviously, you know, how have you been finding the USF 2000 cars? Because again, it's the first time we've spoken to you here in the Colorado Karting Tour, and of course, it's nice to get the drivers' opinions on the cars, especially around circuits like Okayama. And how have you been finding adjusting to all the cars around here?
Originally, when I first started testing this car, I really disliked it because it was like all over the place. But you know, after this race, I started to like it a lot more, and I think maybe just with a little bit more downforce, it would be a really nice car. So
what you're saying is, if we put a high downforce setup on the car, you'd be enjoying it.
yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it already, but a little more downforce would make it more fun, in my opinion.
Well, I think you might want to be saying the opposite, because next time out, we're off to the Charlotte Oval. We're off to Charlotte Motor Speedway. How do you feel about going to an oval, especially in cars like this, where, as you know, we heard from Hubrex just now, it's going to be a draft fest, and how are you thinking of that race? You looking forward to it? Do you think you can get a podium, or what are you thinking?
I think it'll be interesting. Definitely no high downforce on that track. It'll pretty much be full throttle the whole time. We'll see how it goes. I'm not really an oval racer, so.
Is there anyone at all that you'd like to thank? Obviously, as you're with us here on the broadcast right now.
Sponsors, they don't really do much with the sim racing, but Tenderbelly, Be Fresh Gear, Crucible Development Labs, CompCart, and my father, of course, for helping me put this sim together. And yeah, for you guys putting this whole interview together and everything.
It's very much appreciated from us here at Apex Racing TV, and of course, we can't wait to see you next time out at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for the oval around the calendar.
Yeah, thank you so much. See ya.
Thank you, Nolan. We have one more podium finisher who is waiting for an interview, that being your race number 2 third place finisher, Tyler Green. How's it going? Oh, we lost him.
No, we lost him.
See if we can grab him again.
Ah, there we go.
I don't know what just happened, sorry.
How's it going, Tyler?
Pretty standard.
Yeah, first of all, compliments on the name, of course. Excellent name you got there.
Thank
you. Yes. What a fantastic race battle we saw you have there with Max Opolsky in race number 2, and a really stellar move to make third place happen there. What was going through your mind there?
I don't know, nothing really. I guess just kind of instinct kicked in, I guess, but definitely wasn't expecting to be where I was, and very happy with the result, and it was a great race, and he was racing me clean, and it was awesome.
Excellent. Yeah, we were thoroughly entertained by your battles pretty much all the way through the race. I mean, you guys were fighting for, I would have to say, the entirety of the race for kind of second on back there until Nolan scampered on up the road. But and some excellent fighting there. You, if I'm not mistaken, are new to this league. How are you finding the car?
It can definitely be a bit squirrely, but slowly getting used to that. And I'm very surprised with how I did this race again, and I guess it's just nice to be able to have some nice clean racing with these guys.
Yeah, certainly. We really enjoyed it. We're very much looking forward to next week, or the next round at the Charlotte Oval. Are you taking part in that? Are you looking forward to it?
Absolutely. It's definitely going to be different because it's an oval, but I'm definitely excited for it.
Very, very cool. Do you have anyone that you would like to give a shout out to before we let you go here, Tyler?
I guess all my family watching. They're supporting me and being awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. We also appreciate your family watching our streams here at Apex Racing TV, and we will see you next time out at Charlotte. Your Race 2 third place finisher, Tyler Green, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a couple more drivers that I would like to get in if we have time. First up is Floyd Kerr, who just missed out on a podium a couple times today. Floyd, I'll let Alex take this one, but how you feeling?
I'm feeling really good, actually. It went really well compared to what I was expecting. And yeah, we had some troubles throughout the race, but I'm happy with my finish.
I was going to say, you looked really, really strong out there today. You have looked strong, throughout every race that we have seen you in here in the Colorado Karting Tour. But it was kind of nice to see you running a bit further at the front than usual. And tell me, as someone that literally had to watch cars just sort of part the ways in front of you, as like Moses parting the Red Sea, how does that feel as a driver when you sort of see that happen and you get through it without any issues?
It was the biggest relief ever, and definitely makes me feel a little bit better about whatever position I'm in, regardless if it's towards the front or the back.
And of course, how have you found these USF 2000 cars? Because of course, we haven't had the chance to speak to you this season, apart from now, which is a great thing to have. But of course, you've been driving for pretty much the whole season. How have you found these cars? Especially around tracks here like Okayama.
Well, particularly on Okayama, I'm not a big fan of the USF 2000 like mid-turn. It's just got some weird handling and the brakes are a little funny, but I'm really glad I was able to find some consistency this race, so I'm a little bit happier with it, and I find it as an alright car.
That's good, and of course, we head to Charlotte next, and of course, it's going to be a draft race. It's going to be a very, very interesting race indeed. Are you looking forward to it, especially in a car that you've just said doesn't have a great mid-turn?
I am actually. I am. It'd be my first oval race in iRacing because I just got into iRacing for this particular championship, and I'm getting used to it. But I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Congrats for not falling down the rabbit hole of official oval races. They can be entertainingly hilarious at times. Of course, you've just said to me that you have been, you got into iRacing solely for Colorado Karting Tour. Did you ever really think of doing iRacing or any sort of sim racing before, or is this literally your first time solely because of CKC?
This is literally my first time. I didn't even think about it before because I just wasn't a fan of the gameplay. Like, I've watched some of it, I've heard about some about it, and professionally I prefer, other simulators. But when I heard that, CKT's doing iRacing, I'm like, all right, let's get it. And
I'll bite the bullet.
yeah, let's bite the bullet. But I'm happy with it.
I'm glad. It's always a pleasure to have drivers, especially here in the CKT, especially with the grid sides that we did have here today at Okayama. And of course, it'll be great to see you next time out at Charlotte. Is there anyone that you would like to thank before you head out, my friend?
I'd like to thank the people around me during the race. I don't know their names, but for clean battles. It's a very clean race. Clean battles, very fun, and it was close racing.
It's great to hear. That is Floyd Kerr. You're just sadly not podium finisher in race 2 this time by, but amazing results nonetheless. Tyler, are you back, my friend? I've heard you having disconnecting from Discord about 5 times now.
Going to ask Jeremy to pull up the points for us before we pull up the
marvelous.
But yeah, thanks so much, Floyd, and congrats on your excellent races here today.
Thank you.
I will now bring Jeremy in here.
Speak of the devil.
Yes. We ask how your races went, Jeremy. I did ask if you had the points for us. Have you got those pulled up?
Yeah, I do have them pulled up. But I did actually realize that for some reason they're actually a little bit wrong. So yeah.
I was right to blame Jeremy earlier on them. I've somehow managed to predict the future here.
Yeah. What it was is I know what exactly happened. It's actually showing the previous season. For some reason, it's adding them both in. And so that's why it's showing completely wrong. Because right now I'm winning, which is not correct.
I was about to say, I don't think that's correct.
Yeah.
I mean,
all right, that's fine. We'll ask you again once Charlotte rolls around, so we get a sense of where the standings are. But how were your races today, Jeremy? It seemed like you were kind of in the thick of the battle, but sort of in that sort of looming position of waiting for things to happen and then pouncing when people made mistakes in front of you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. I was trying to conserve tires as much as possible. I was trying to do as consistent laps as possible. This car and myself just don't really mix very well, so we're really struggling to get up to speed with this car. But yeah, it was really just a matter of watching the race in front of me unfold, and then I was going to try to make an attempt at the last lap, but then I lost concentration, and you might have saw the aftermath of that. But yeah, I spun, and that was it for that. But yeah, I mean, it was a great race. We had some great battles through the pack there, and I was very happy with how the race went. It was very fun.
Awesome. Yeah, certainly some pretty decent performances in there, despite your your little half spin towards the end of race number 2. But as we've asked everybody, are you looking forward to Charlotte? Do you think we're going to see a good race next week on the oval, or next time around, I should say?
I'm actually pretty scared about Charlotte because
I mean, I'm scared about Lime Rock, and Charlotte I think's worse. So
exactly. I'm pretty scared about it just because I personally don't actually race any ovals that much. I mean, I have,
marvelous, great.
yeah. So this is going to be totally new for me.
Great when the guy that's like telling everyone to drive safe and to not do anything stupid has never driven an oval in his life and an oval round.
Exactly. Yeah, this is going to be fun.
I think the word we're looking for is torture.
Oh, it'll be fun. It'll be fun for somebody, I'm sure.
For sure.
Jeremy, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we close it out here tonight?
Yeah, I definitely want to give a shout out to all of the members that have joined the race today. Thank you for joining. It was a great turnout. There's a lot more that are out there that I know that are probably watching this right now that I would love to have them join up. So please come out and join. I just want to thank you all for doing this broadcast as well. It's fantastic. I watch them every single time after this and all that. And then also just want to thank CKT for allowing us to put this on for CKT. We've actually got a couple new members that are going to be going into the karting scene as well. So this is bringing in people, which is fantastic. So I just want to thank you for everything, for all this. So thanks.
That's excellent. That's really great to hear, Jeremy, and we're certainly looking forward to continuing to carry the remainder of this series. So thank you, Jeremy, your 6th place finisher in race number 2, and that about does it for us tonight. So some really excellent races. Obviously a little bit of mayhem at the start of race number 2, but once everything got sorted out, some really great racing for some podium positions, and of course Rob Hubrecht cruising to a double victory once again here at Okayama. That'll do it for us here on Apex Racing TV. I have been Tyler Newitt alongside Alex Skinner and Marco Barbanera. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.